Hello guys, welcome back to the main stage of Most Wanted Music 2023. I'm really excited to introduce you to our next speaker of today. When it comes to working backstage, you should call Pembe Tokluhan because she's multi-talented, specialized in live audio, stage production, and production management. She also addresses a topic that isn't often enough talked about: fostering a workspace that is actually good for our well-being. Often we just push through things and then just forget our emotions, our needs, and also the emotions of others. Pembe will show us how each and every single individual is not only valued, but also warmly embraced. Put your hands together for Pembe Tokluhan.
Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to be here today on my birthday. I am very, very grateful to be spending it with you all. What I'd hopefully be able to do in this quick conversation with you all is tell you about my journey in the industry, where I've come from, what I'm doing now, and maybe some challenges that I've also faced being in this very challenging industry. So, as the host had already introduced me, thank you very much. I'm a multidisciplinary backstage creative. That's probably the best way to explain what I do in a nutshell. To give you an example of some of the stuff that I do, I have worked as an audio engineer, as a stage manager, as a production manager, as a production assistant. And I'm very grateful that I am a part of the Nile Rodgers and Chic organization and have the pleasure of touring with them around Europe in the summertime. I have worked in this industry for a decade now, which feels like forever. But it has been an interestingly amazing decade of lots of knowledge, experiences, and getting to meet some incredible people and allies within the industry. I run a production company called Petok Productions. Petok Productions is for women, trans, and non-binary people working behind the scenes, behind the screens, and behind the lens. And the reason why I put Petok Productions together was because coming up as an audio engineer, I don't know how many of you are aware, but only 5 to 7% of the audio industry is made up of women. And I would say very generously, maybe 1% of that being women of color. And for me, I was quite sick and tired of turning up at a venue and the first thing anyone would say is, "Where's the sound man?" And I was like, "I'm the sound woman. I'm not a man." And it was a very common occurrence that I saw. And I wanted to be able to create a space where people felt represented. I think it's really important to acknowledge that you can't be what you can't see. And there isn't enough representation for a diverse community to actually come into the music industry. So the idea behind putting Petok Productions together was to create a network, was to create a safe space for women, trans, and non-binary people to come together to get work, not because they're women, trans, or non-binary, but because they're good at what they do, you know, and to create a space where people felt like they could have open conversations that were safe. In 2021, I got quite frustrated with the idea that there isn't enough support to get you into the industry. It's kind of like a lot of nepotism, which I'm sure a lot of us know, or advantages and privileges that we might not even acknowledge that we have. And I feel as though there's an importance to create more space for people that don't necessarily get that opportunity. So in 2021, as part of Petok Productions, I created Petok Academy. And Petok Academy offers training, shadowing, and mentoring opportunities, predominantly for young people. For anyone but that kind of 18 to 25-year-old mark where a lot of people are not too sure where they want to go or what they want to do. And it's been incredible. The journey of being able to create opportunity for people and to offer training sessions. We ran a masterclass series 2021 February and 2022 February. And it was all around introductions to backstage roles. I think that there isn't enough information out there for people to understand that you don't have to be on the stage. I know I'm on the stage right now, I hate this. I am not usually the person on the stage. I think that if there was enough light shined for young people on somebody sitting there behind that camera and watching that, you know, or a stage manager or a host or other things that you can also explore that you don't get to see. So these sessions engaged with over 500 people from around 25 countries. And although lockdown was horrible, it was an incredible way to grow your international network. And for me, that was a chance for me to bring thoughts and conversations into spaces and countries and communities that maybe they didn't get to explore these things in. I now am very, very grateful for where I'm at. I have achieved some incredible things that I am very, very, very proud of. But people always ask me, you know, you work with Niall, and I'm like, yeah, a human. I work with a human beyond anything. What was your most iconic moment? And I'm like, if I'm being really honest with you, my most iconic moment whilst being on tour last year and this year was when a young person that I mentor came to one of the festivals we were doing in the UK and dropped me a message and said, I'm at this festival, my dad's performing, but I don't have a backstage wristband. And I was like, okay, why don't you meet me at stage door and I will bring you through. So I took her backstage and I got her to meet Nile Rodgers. I got her to stand stage right with me and watch the Jacksons perform whilst we boogied with Nile, which was an experience that this young person would probably never even be able to fathom. They'd never even be able to feel as though that they could even get close to anything like that. And that for me was a moment of hope. And hope is what keeps our dreams alive. Hope is what makes us wake up in the morning. And all it takes is one person to see you. You don't need to be seen by everybody. You don't need to be doing 101 things. You just need someone to say, I believe in you. And I think for me, it's an incredible journey that I've managed to see with this young person. So I've mentored her for 5 years. And she's a young black woman who doesn't usually get seen in a lot of environments that she works in. And now, this year, she's gone on to work on 20 festivals. She is on her way to becoming better than me and becoming the best production manager out there. And the reason why I mention that moment to all of you today is because for me, that was a 360 moment. When I was 15, I never thought that I would be where I am today. And the reason why I genuinely believe that I am who I am today and I've got to where I've got to is through somebody saying that they believe in me. And that somebody was a man called Franklin Sweeney. Frank was a youth worker that I met in the youth club that I used to attend. And he approached me one day and said, we're doing this music project with police. It was so random. But we would like for you to help with putting this space together every Tuesday. So every Tuesday evening, we opened up this space. And in that space, we'd allowed young musicians and creatives to come and network and just be together. And I was able to learn how to do a bit of audio. And I was really fascinated by cables and cones and soldering. It was so random. I was like, oh my God, well that. It was really like something that I realized I never had access to before. But actually, by being in that space and by having someone like Frank say, come along, I was able to see a whole new world. And that inspired me further down the line to go and study music production and business. So I went and studied music production and business in college, and I was the only female out of 59 guys. And this is a very, very common occurrence. And I even see some of the guys nodding in the corner. You know, it's something that needs to change, but has a long way to kind of get there. And I believe that. But it's through the small works that we do that creates that change. And when I was on this music production and business course, my teacher turned around and said to me, in my spare time, I'm a backline tech. And I was like, a what? He said, I'm a backline tech. I get paid to go and set up the equipment and put a few mics on it, and that's my job done. And I go back at the end of the day, and I strike what I need to. I take away what I need to take away. And I was like, that's a job. I can have that job. I want that job. I want to be paid to set things up and not really be seen on the stage and then just wander off. And I left that college with the highest grade to date. I left that college with a distinction star. When I came into that college, I was told that I'd amount to nothing. Now, I won't go and become very morbid in my conversation, but I will give you a vague kind of explanation of my journey. I grew up in an area which was infused with a lot of poverty, with a lot of traumas, and a lot of adversities. And I became a product of that environment. And I ended up actually becoming a young person that was in a gang, that went to prison at 14 years old. And I'm standing here today. And it's taken me a long time to be able to accept that I belong in this space. I'm not who I was, I am who I am. And I think for me, it's really important to believe and show young people who are the next generation and people that have been in the industry for so long that it's okay to change. It's okay to change your mindset. It's okay to do something different. We talk a lot about diversity. Diversity isn't just gender and race. Diversity is a colorful spectrum. Diversity is your socio-economical status, your culture, your upbringing, your environment, your traumas. Those things are what makes us diverse, right? And it's important to acknowledge that your advantage can offset somebody else's disadvantage. Allyship is spoken about a lot. Allyship can be done in silence as well. Doesn't always have to be loud. Yeah, it can be loud. But allyship is, for me, not just about supporting people when they're in that environment, but also standing up for people and supporting them when they're not there. It's about integrity. It's about doing things like 1,000 people are watching you, but no one's watching you. I think that it's really important that we have a look at ourselves and think about how we could change the way we think. We all have conscious and unconscious biases. We all have different ideologies, different privileges, different disadvantages. But when you take a moment to be grateful, and I'm a very grateful person. I'm very grateful to be here. I'm very grateful to be alive. I think that you can create something really incredible by creating space. And I hope that with the work that I do and continue to do, not just with my company, but with all the other work that I do. I train the Metropolitan Police in the UK. I do talks at schools for young people who are on the verge of going to prisons. I go into youth clubs. I have open discussions on forums like the Back Lounge that Joe just spoke about, which is an incredible space for people that are mainly in touring but in the live industry. I've been given the opportunity to go into these spaces and challenge some of these people. I like to challenge, I'm not going to lie. I like to challenge people. I like to get them to think about something differently that maybe they didn't think about. And for me, it's about being able to acknowledge why I think the way that I do. And one of the best things that I have ever done was take a moment to comfort my inner child. That's something that's not spoken about. I'm not going to go too deep into it because I can talk for a long time. But it's important to acknowledge that you have an inner child inside of you that needs comfort, right? And the one, I'm going to do a little Q&A for a few minutes after this, but the one piece of advice that I would give, whether you want to take it or not, is comfort your inner child, is find a way to find that sense of play again. Play is something we forget about as we get older. Everything becomes serious. And one piece of work that I did was I sat down and I wrote a letter to my 7-year-old self. It sounds really silly, I know. I did it. I sat there for about 10 minutes and I wrote this letter. And I looked in the mirror and I spoke to my 7-year-old self. I told her that she runs a company, she is proud of who she is, she's working in some incredible spaces, and I woke up the next morning, can I swear on this? I crap you not, it was one of the most transformative things that I'd ever done in my life. I woke up and started looking at life differently. I realized that actually by comforting my inner child, I was able to be a happier adult. I think I'm going to leave it there. I want to leave that bit there and open the floor to anybody who might have any questions for me, if that's all right. They're going to give you a mic, I think.
What was an experience that made you feel different to others, and how did you navigate that?
Oh. I am usually one of the only women in spaces backstage. I mean, you might find tour managers tend to be women as well, but they stay with the artists a lot. So I had an interesting experience, actually. I won't mention what production it was on, but I had a very interesting experience where I joined a team for a show, and it was all men, and they turned around to me and said, "Oh, ain't it great that you're a lesbian and you're working with us?" And I was like, "What?" They were like, "Yeah, we can talk about women." I was like, "But I am a woman. I don't want to talk about women in derogatory ways. I don't want to hear you talk about it. I don't want to be a part of it." And I challenged it. And I kind of got called a snowflake for it. But I don't care if I'm a snowflake, because I'd do the same thing again. I'd do it if one person was in that room, and I'd do it if 100 people were in that room. And that's something that's very common. You get certain people think that when they're in certain environments, they can act in ways that are inappropriate. And in this industry, for so many years, beyond my time, things have been normalized that should not be normalized. Things should be called out. I don't care if you don't hire me. At least I know I can go to sleep at night and I stood up for what I know I needed to stand up for. And that was definitely one experience that made me realize that I would keep calling things out. I haven't gone back to that production. I don't think they'll ever hire me. I don't think I ever want to work for them. There's more work out there. There's hundreds of shows, thousands. But I think it's important, like I said, to remain integral. It's important that if you're going to stand up for something, you stand up for it when others ain't watching as well. I think I might have one more question, time for one more question. Or not? Okay. All right. I think I am going to wrap up there. If you want to come and have a chat with me, please come and find me. You're going to see me on here in about 3 minutes. I'm on the other panel. But come and have a chat with me. I'm very approachable, I'd like to think. Stay in contact. My production company is called Petok Productions. That's Petok Productions. You can find me on Instagram at Petok, P-E-T-O-K, Pem, P-E-M. And thank you very much for allowing me to spend my birthday with you all.